Marvel Comics in the 90s. How could we forget? Big hair, huge muscles, big boobs, and gigantic guns. The era where we had 30 Spider-Man and X-Men titles. Marvel had plenty of gimmicks, but man did I love it when I was a kid. Welcome to the marvelous 90s. Hey Frontline fans, welcome back to Comic Frontline Fans. You're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, bringing you episode number 4 of Marvelous 90s. That's right guys, this is the video series where I relive those glory days of Marvel back in the 90s and share some of the craziest issues with y'all. Now the first issues or episodes are actually dedicated to my Frontline team members. If you guys haven't checked them out, go ahead and check them out. My first one was dedicated to Brant Fowler, then it was Due to Rock 18, the latest episode was dedicated to Jay, and now Chris, Dark Avenger. This is your video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Now, the reason why I picked this particular book is because you're a huge DC fan, and I couldn't get any DC characters in Marvel Universe, but I got the next closest thing, the writer. And the writer is a writer that has a lot of history with your favorite character, and that is Superman. And this issue is the Sensational Spider-Man issue number 0. This book is written by Dan Jurgens, and the artwork is done by Klaus Janson. Now, this is one of the main titles at the time in 1996 that was running in Marvel Comics, and this was a huge gimmick back in the day because we obviously has Ben Reilly as Spider-Man here. And so with this release of an issue 0, back then the lenticular covers were a lot different, and you got this. So you can see the lenticular cover is not even a full cover, it's just like this pasted card. And this book's cost was $4.99 at the time. That is a lot of money for a Marvel comic in 1996, when Marvel today is charging $4.99 for the book. So, what did I think about this issue? Let's talk about it. So, the artwork inside is really good, actually, and Klaus Janson does a nice job at drawing Spider-Man or Ben Reilly, whoever it is in here. And this book is actually glossy. There is no newspaper print in this. So they spent a lot of money, Marvel, back in the day to try to make this comic a big hit, because this is like almost like the flagship book, because this is your Spider-Man, right? So pretty good artwork, nice paneling. You get great 2-page spreads. You get an actual page of here when Spider-Man dons the new costume, and then you also get another great page of different costumes that Spider-Man has worn, or where Ben is actually thinking of drawing or making the costume. So I thought that was really neat too. So great artwork. What did I think about the story? Let's talk about it. So Ben Reilly's reliving his days, his memories of Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and whatnot, and he's thinking about becoming Spider-Man again. And what happens is we wind up seeing there's some trouble in the streets. He winds up saving a guy, and it kind of triggers him to being like, you know what, that felt good. I want to become Spider-Man again, but I have no money. He's like, what do I got to do? So what happens is he winds up, going to the store, and he winds up creating his web fluid again. He gets cheap products, cheap lab equipment, and he creates his web fluid again. The book goes into lots of flashbacks with Aunt May, Uncle Ben, his cloning process, how he's a clone, how he thought he wasn't a clone, just a whole bunch of stuff. And in the meantime, we get to see a mysterious villain recruiting this villain to go into this laboratory to create this, to get this D chip, whatever that thing is. So as we get to see Ben actually make his webbing, get successful at that, he winds up going to get food. He goes to this place called the Daily Grind, and which is a coffee place. And the shop manager loans him like a quarter to pay for the rest of his food because he's so broke. In the meantime, we wind up seeing this model. She shows up in the place, and Ben's like, oh, he's like, hey, this is your table, I guess, so you need to sit here. But he kind of overhears some important information about clothing, because he needs to make a costume, and he doesn't have the materials or the money to buy a costume. So he overhears things. He winds up going to Empire State University and going into the particular office where all this clothing is. And so he winds up trying to think of a costume to make. And this is the best page in the book because his creativity process is so neat. He's trying to think of all these different costumes, and it's like, oh, nah, this is too X-Men. Oh, this is too Asgardian. Oh, this is too this. And then he's like, oh, I got it. But you don't see it yet. In the meantime, you wind up seeing this this villain break into this into the laboratory, and his name is Armana. And this guy's a joke. I mean, he's just another guy in a suit, and the only thing that he has is these little flying cyborg things that look like Darth Vader's like TIE fighter, and he talks to them like pets. That's the only thing that happens to the guy. So Spider-Man picks up this thing that's going on with picking him up in his spider sense, and he goes, hey, it's your job for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and I'm back. You get this big 2-page spread, and you get to see him, and it looks great. The costume is awesome. The colors look great. And back in 1996, to get this glossy comic, like a magazine, this has got to sit there and be like, wow, this looks great, So you can, again, they spent money on this to try to get the artwork and the coloring right. And so you get to see this long drawn-out battle over this D-chip. That's this spear that supposedly, like, revolutionizes TV or something. I don't know. But so, and this is where the part of the book where it got boring for me, because it's like, okay, how long are we gonna go on this battle? They're fighting. He's using his web shooters, and this villain is so boring. There's something special about him, so it makes the fight really anticlimactic. In the end, Spider-Man, or Ben, really just wraps him up in his webbing, and he captures him in his webbing, and that's the end of the dude. And the little robots, or whatever they are, they take the spear, and they bring it to the mysterious villain. Key Mysterious. Who do you think that villain is? Yes, it's Mysterio. But it's a very generic form of Mysterio. It's different, I guess. Maybe not generic. It's a different version of Mysterio. His costume's completely different. Kind of looks like Ghost Rider because he's not wearing the fishbowl. And it looks like, but he doesn't have the flames coming out of his head. He just has like smoke or mist. So different version of Mysterio here. So that is your mysterious villain by the time you get to the end. Ben is down on his luck, but he's trying to change things around by becoming Spider-Man again. He cut his hair. He bleached his hair as well. He kind of looks like a 90s rapper like Vanilla Ice or something like that. He goes back to the daily grind. He pays back the money that he owed to the manager, and she really respected him for that. And in the end, she winds up offering him a job. So now, at least Ben has some way of living at this point, and that's basically how the issue ends. So, what did I think about this particular book? You know what? I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, you spend a lot of time reliving Ben's flashbacks, and I don't mind that, but it was a constant back and forth. It was like, oh, should I be Spider-Man? Shouldn't I be Spider-Man? And then he's like, we had to relive the whole clone thing. They're trying to catch up to the reader on how he's a clone and how Peter Parker thought he was a clone and things like that. So there was a lot of exposition there with that whole situation. And the one other thing that I didn't like about this book was really the lengthy fight of the villain, and the villain himself was just very generic, and I didn't really care for that all that much. It would have been a lot better in this particular issue is if Ben had to actually dust the rust off of him and fight Mysterio right from the start. Let Mysterio gather this chip himself. He's very capable of that, instead of getting this lackey to do it, some generic wannabe. So I didn't like that. And they could have really shortened the issue, quite a bit without this lengthy fight. And I felt like they were trying to force pages in here because of that $4.99 price tag. You got to think about that. Back in 1996, to charge $4.99 for a book, holy shit, you got balls there. So they had to really fill in this book with some kind of fight or whatever. But unfortunately, the fight fell flat. So the things that I did like was the coloring. I did like the glossy pages. And I did like the suit. And I loved how Ben was thinking of the suit himself on what to design. I thought that was fantastic. And then I did like the personality in Ben as well, as him being honest to pay back the shop manager the food that he owed her. And in the end, he got rewarded for a job. So, what do I grade this book in the end? Well, I think in today's standards, I'm going to grade this one probably a 3.25 out of 5 stars. Probably just a little bit above average there, because I liked how Marvel tried to go out of their way by bringing you glossy pages and extra pages and Dan Jurgens and all these things. But the story itself just couldn't last 60-something pages or 40-something pages, however long it was. So if they shortened it a little bit and not so much flashbacks, I think this could have been a really much more solid book. And I think Dan Jurgens really should have just stuck with Superman, because that's where he shines the most. He even makes a Superman joke in this particular issue also. There was one point that I didn't like also, was Ben Reilly didn't agree with something. He said, yeah, this blows. When would Ben Reilly or Peter Parker actually say that, you know? So that kind of caught me by surprise there. But the Superman reference was kind of funny in this book too. So, again, guys, 3.25 out of 5 stars. In the comments below, tell me if you read the Sensational Spider-Man issue number 0. And if you have any requests on 90s books that you would love for me to review, hey, send them my way. I'll be glad to do them for you. Even if you want to send me some books, I'll be glad to do that for you too. I have a blast doing them. It's a great series. I love doing it. And Chris, hopefully you enjoyed this video. This one was for you. And guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Frontline. And until that next comic book review, you can check out comicfrontline.com. And don't forget to check out our live show each and every Tuesday night. It takes place around 9:30, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to subscribe to Comic Frontline. So again, fans, thank you for watching. And this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.